Hello everyone. So in this video I'll be going over activity 4 of the week, which is reading with the grain. So for this one, I changed the way that the Google Documents work. So this will be embedded in. So as soon as you click on this link right here, it'll open up a copy in a separate tab. So you're going to go ahead and click that. And because it made a copy for you automatically, you'll be able to edit the document yourself directly and type within it. So what's next after thinking about life after high school? So in this activity, you'll be able to identify the key advice from the author in terms of considering one's audience by reading with the grain and by questioning the text against the grain. So when we reread against or with the grain, we are following the author, what he's saying. We're not necessarily questioning the kind of techniques or advice or opinions that he's giving. But when we read against the grain, that's when we become more active readers rather than passive, and we begin to question the text, work with the text, and kind of evaluate the author's line of thinking. All right. So in this engage section, you'll see that Perez's essay may prompt you to rethink some possible assumptions, not just about who goes to college, but also about how we should represent ourselves to communities we wish to join, whether that be college, military, or work community. Perez points out that a lot can be said about who we are and how ready we are for the next stage of our lives by examining how our failures and how we handle those failures. Perez's essay describes his experiences interviewing prospective college students, but the essay can be applied to more than college experience. Bit of a tongue twister. So one of the engagement responses I would like you guys to answer right here is, how is failure a necessary aspect of success? What can we learn from our failures? And respond to that in about 3 to 4 sentences. And because this is a copy, you can just type directly within it. And then that'll show me your response when you upload this to Schoology. All right, so for this next section, we are going to talk about gathering information for our writing while reading, and how this helps extend our thinking. And good reading should cause us to consider ideas or perspectives that we may not have found on our own. So that's the case when we are reading. That is the case in this article, which we are reading, and we are playing the believing game to understand specific advice Perez offers about how to represent ourselves to an audience. When we play the believing game, we listen to what the author says and marks places where we agree, especially where we understand what the author writes. So remember, like what I said before, that's more passive reading. We're just kind of following the author down this trail. We're not necessarily questioning what he says. We're kind of just going along with his line of thinking and his arguments. And if you want to, I included these videos as well that help explain how we can annotate a text and the benefits of annotating, as well as this one too. So those should help you out as resources of like how, if you're confused on like, how do I annotate a text? Like, that's what we're looking for. In this next section, apply and create, this is when you're going to go through and actively read the text that's embedded within your Google Doc. So you'll see here there's 4 to 5 main things that we're looking for. So you're going to highlight keywords in orange, highlight important information in yellow, highlight the best advice Perez gives about how to represent yourself in green, highlight his evidence to support his argument in blue, and you're going to make comments in the margins, which when we make a comment, we right click. So we would highlight something, either right click or double click on your trackpad, and then right here, you would type in comment. And then you would just type in your comment here, and then you would hit comment, and then it'll stay there for me to read later. I don't know what just happened and where we went. Well, let's scroll back up and find out. Okay. And then you see here, so then that's how that comment relates to that. And what it says here, you should have at least 1 comment per paragraph. So we are highlighting along as we go. We should have 1 comment per paragraph. And underneath this as a separate bullet point, I included this for you as well to help you with your, like, what to write about when you're making a comment. It can be a question you have about what the author said, your own personal thoughts, your emotions to what he said, your reactions, opinions. Do you agree or disagree? Do you relate with it on a personal level? And it's nothing like super elaborate. I'm not looking for a 3 to 4 sentence comment. It can be 1 to 2 sentences like, wow, I never considered this view before. That's fine. But we're practicing actively engaging with the text by commenting on it. And so in addition to highlighting, make sure you are answering the response questions in the yellow boxes. I'll show you that in a second. Since you made a copy of this article, like I said before, you may type directly into the boxes. So the article that you'll be looking at is Want to Get into College, Learn to Fail by Angel B. Perez. And you'll see it's a bit of an older document, but a lot of what he has to say about it is still significantly relevant. So you're going to go through, I'll read this one together to kind of model how I would annotate it. So this is the first paragraph. I ask every student I interview for admissions to my institution, Pitzer College, the same question. What do you look forward to the most in college? I was stunned and delighted recently when a student sat across from me at a Starbucks in New York City and replied, I look forward to the possibility of failure. Of course, that is not how most students respond to the question when sitting before the person who can make decisions about their academic futures, but this young man took a risk. So some of the comments that I would say, or that I might say as a reader, well, here's one for me right now. Comment. And maybe I'm like, why would you say that? It's like, why would you say that? Like, how is that a strong interviewing technique? And then so let's go back up to the instructions. So we wanted to highlight any keywords in orange. And one keyword that really stood out to me was risk. So I'm going to highlight that in orange because, I mean, he took a risk in doing this. And when you're interviewing for, I mean, who knows if this was his dream college, but if you're interviewing to get into a college or a job, it's not necessarily the time to take risks. So that really stood out to me as a keyword. That and then admissions. So this is the college admissions, right? So I got admissions and risk. So let's go back up here. Highlight important information in yellow. So some of the important information that I saw was, of course, this is not how most students respond to the question. And you don't always have to highlight the whole line. So this was an important information that I saw because I was like, oh, right. And so he says this too, like, right, that's not normally how people respond to this question. So that reveals why the person who was interviewed, why their response was atypical. And in terms of the best advice Perez gives to represent yourself, we don't necessarily see that within this first section. It's somewhat hinted at, right? He does say he was surprised, he was stunned and delighted. So if he's delighted, that probably means it's a good thing, but there isn't necessarily explicit advice given to us that we could highlight in green. So let's go ahead and leave that for the other sections. And in blue, highlight evidence in blue. Again, we don't have evidence in this paragraph, so this is a good reminder that your highlights, you won't have every single highlight present in each section, right? Each section has a different goal. For this being the first section, it's more of a hook, right? So as the reader, we want to kind of get invested in it, and having an anecdote of a student admitting that he looks forward to the possibility of failure while he's interviewing for his admissions to a college is a pretty good hook. So that's the point of this section. So if we scroll down to this yellow box, what was your reaction to hearing the student say, I look forward to the possibility of failure? In what ways was this a risk to the student? And so these responses should only be about 3 to 4 sentences. But yeah, you just answer them here and you just type them right in, and you would just type them right after the word response. You're just frozen, so. And then you'll see that these carry on throughout. So you are going to highlight and comment throughout the article in addition to completing your responses within each of these boxes. And that's going to carry through. And then at the end, you have a reflection question. So now that you've finished the article, write one paragraph, 5 to 6 sentences responding to these prompts. Identify the main idea of the article. What is Perez arguing? Who is his target audience? And if you guys remember, audience or target audience is like the select, narrowed audience that we're looking for, the people who we're reading to. Why did he write this? Who is he writing it to? Is it high school seniors? Is it other college admissions counselors? Who is he writing to? And what gives Perez authority? Ethos. You guys should remember this from your ears in English. Ethos. We'll do that and then the Zoom. But ethos has to do with your ethics, right? Your believability. So what gives him the authority as an author? Think of this position and title. One hint that I will give you is at the end of the article, and you should probably glean this from the article while you're reading it, talks about his position. So how does his position, or where he works, or what he does for a living, how does that make his advice more believable, and then how does that make him, by extension, more authoritative as an author? How does his position make it so that we should believe what he's saying? Essentially is what that question's asking. All right, and so lastly, you have the reflect section. So after reading Perez's article the first time, go back through it again and choose a few of the sentences you highlighted. Copy them down on the left side of the table provided below. Once you copy the sentence in the left-hand box, write on the right side about what the quotation made you think about or why you chose this quotation. So again, this is another practice of how you can annotate within, but it's going to be on a separate table. So I put an example in here for you guys. I quoted, "Students are usually in shock when I chuckle and tell them I never expect perfection." That's from paragraph 4, so para 4. Please put this in when you were choosing your quotes so I can get that in there just to know where you got it from. And in my own words, I said, "Perfection is boring and anyone and everyone can project only the good parts of themselves. Instead, the author, Greenblatt, he is suggesting I show how my hardships have shaped me." So those are the kind of things that you're doing. What is the explicit quote that you're choosing, and how did you process that? What are your own words? What are your own reactions? How did it make you think? You don't necessarily, actually, yeah. So go ahead and fill up this table. But again, it's only 1 to 2 sentences of how it made you think. So don't go too crazy on it. You already are writing a whole paragraph here. So we just want a 1 to 2 sentence reaction of how, or whatever advice that Perez gave you, which you should highlight in green. So completing this table, you should be able to just go directly back up to your article and find what you've highlighted in green. And then on the right side, your personal reactions to what those make you think. And then don't forget to click submit in Schoology by 3 p.m. on Friday. Thank you.